Hey, what's going on, fam? So, another video about ADOS. No, not ADOS, but Marianne Williamson. Um, the reason why I want to address this woman yet again is because I'm seeing that she's extremely dangerous. She's extremely disrespectful, and the fact that she's extremely dangerous and disrespectful tells me that this woman is a white supremacist. She's a confirmed white supremacist in my eyes. Uh, if you want to know, and I'm using the when I say white supremacist, I'm using the terms that I've learned from Aneely Fuller, right? Is why I'm classifying her as a white supremacist. A white supremacist is not always or necessarily a Klansman, in a white sheet or Donald Trump. There's plenty of Democrat, liberal white supremacists, which is what a lot of the voices that I've shouted out in previous videos and say listen to, they point that out. And I'm pointing it out, and I will continue to point it out because it's simply true. A lot of the liberals and Democrats are white supremacists. And hell, the ADOS movement should understand that a lot. That's why the ADOS movement is applying pressure to the Democratic Party because they can see the white supremacist games that Democrats and white leftists and liberals play with black people. And even a lot of their black puppets like a Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and Elijah Cummings, XY, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, play with black people. So I'm saying that to say that's why we obviously know, those of us who are in the know have the knowledge that a white liberal can be racist, a white Democrat can be a racist, a white leftist who is pretending to be in our favor or is pretending to promote things that are going to help us or benefit us as black people, as black Americans, as ADOS. Uh, Most of the time are things that are not only not going to help us, but possibly or probably harm us because they're racist, but they promote it as something that's going to benefit us in order to get us to go along with our own destruction because they're white supremacists and they get a kick out of getting black people to agree with their own destruction. All right. Yeah. But anyway, the other part of the reason why I was inspired to make this video is because the brother My Views, and I'm gonna put the link to his video in the description box. He made a video about her, and he called out her plan, even though he, kind of couched it in that he wasn't necessarily attacking her campaign, and he does think she did some good things, and he wasn't out to destroy her campaign or anything like that. Um, he still made a good video pointing out the insufficiency of her plan, which I've also pointed out, which other people besides me and him have also pointed out. But he's also pointed out, and he did a good, concise video pointing out the problems with her plan. And also, I want to say I'm not only pointing out his channel just because he called out Marianne Williamson. The reason why I even knew about his video calling out Marianne Williamson is because I was already subscribed to his channel. And his channel is a pretty good channel, unlike me, who always wants to and says I'm going to keep my videos short, meaning 15 minutes or less. He actually usually does that. The majority of his videos are 15 minutes or less. So if you want a little bit more of a concise channel than mine, who still gives some good views, who's on code, who's on board with the ADOS movement, and who is against white supremacy and calls it out, a channel that does all those things, then I recommend this brother's channel. So go check out his video. I'm gonna put his link in the description box, and also like and subscribe to his channel. But anyway, back on. Oh, speaking of that brother and his video, um, a lot of the comments in his videos reflected a lot of the comments that were in my videos, even though I deleted a lot of the comments that were in my previous Marianne Williamson videos, even though I still encourage everyone to go check them out. Some of the trolls that were still supporting this woman no matter what, because they were so persistently trolling my channel, I removed some of their, or pretty much most of their comments, or deleted or blocked them because they kept sucking me into a back and forth debate, and it would be hard to just see their comments and ignore them, so I just started deleting their comments. But anyway, I'm bringing up those comments to say, and bringing up that brother's channel to say, a lot of the same comments that are under his video right now and that were under my video, and some of them may still be there. I don't think I deleted all of them. Are finding different various excuses to support Marianne Williamson. And what it shows is that a lot of black people still have a problem with a white savior syndrome, right? Even though I would think and came into the ADOS as a movement, seeing that the people who are calling themselves ADOS, the black people, because obviously all black Americans are ADOS, but not all of us know we are, as far as know the terminology ADOS. We just know we black, right? We don't have we're black American. We don't have a particular terminology like ADOS. So the ones who do use that terminology, you think would tend to be more woke. They would tend to be someone who's more willing to acknowledge that a system of white supremacy exists, say that it's a problem, say that we need to do something about it. Uh, just be what I would consider a more woke black person than your average black person. Someone who's usually smart enough to not vote for Democrats unless they are going to offer tangibles, right? Someone who's also smart enough to not vote for Republicans unless they're going to offer tangibles, and is aware that even though Republicans are obviously more openly racist and a lot less likely to offer any tangibles than a Democrat, it's pretty much two sides of the same coin, right? All those things I'm naming, you would think they would have that kind of general knowledge, right? You would also think they would have enough intelligence to know better than to vote for these these Bernie Sanders and these Marianne Williamsons. But especially with Marianne Williamson, clearly a lot of us don't. Clearly a lot of people who are in the ADOS movement came straight from being Democrats, came straight from voting off Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama, right? And they don't have enough. They didn't. And I'm not saying this because at one point I voted for Barack Obama. At one point I was more of your average black person, very asleep, right? But as I've grown, the people who I've started to listen to and get information from, as far as who I am as a black person, how the system of white supremacy works, and the things that we can do about it to protect ourselves and get rid of this system. I'm talking about people like Khalid Muhammad, Shahrazad Ali, Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, John Henrik Clark. These are the kind of people who I came from listening to. Obviously, more recently, more modern people are. I always shout them out, but I'll shout them out again. Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, the Black Authority. These are the kind of people who the lineage of my information. Once I started to become woke. Whereas obviously for some people, I went from Democrat to shift, transitioning into listening to Khalid Muhammad and Shahrazad Ali and these kind of people, right? And Amos Wilson. Whereas it seems like and then I became an ADOS when this movement, when Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore started that term. That's when I started to become, and that term really started to catch fire. That's when I became, as far as an ADOS, even though I still agree with a lot of the things that I learned before, and not going to throw out everything, even though some of the things I realize are outdated, like a lot of the Pan-African philosophies of some of those people I just mentioned are not applicable or are not wise for the black American today. So in that sense, I have kind of drifted away from that part of it, but a lot of the things that they say about the system of white supremacy in general and dealing with white supremacy and the black man's position in the world, his history, who he was before white supremacy and who he is during white supremacy, and the contrast, and who we need to be to have a black man that exists after white supremacy. That's the context that I'm coming from. Whereas it seems like a lot of and like I said, from that into ADOS while still holding a lot of that knowledge. Where it seems as a lot of people um, are coming straight from being a Democrat, being a Republican, being a Bernie bro, to being an ADOS person, and for that reason, they haven't fully let go of some of the white liberalisms that they've learned, some of the white savior syndromes they may have, because that's what a lot of white leftism is about, is white saviorism, that it both gratifies the ego of white people and it fulfills the white savior impulse of a lot of black people. They need a white savior, they need a white mommy and a white daddy, because they've been stripped of their confidence, their racial confidence, so they really don't feel like they can do anything for themselves, so they wait for a white person to save them. The Republicans are big and bad because they're more openly racist than the Democrats, so we look to them as a white savior. So I'm saying all that to say, a lot of us carried a lot of white savior impulses, apparently and obviously, by some of the comments that I'm seeing on, like I said, the Brother My Views channel and previously on my channel. A lot of the people who are ADOS are clearly carrying still a lot of white liberalisms into the ADOS movement, which they need to let go of. And anyway, that's my little preamble. Uh, what I want to do is I'm going to play a video from Marianne Williamson, and I'm going to play the whole clip so can't nobody say I cut anything out or I misconstrued it or I twisted it or manipulated her what she was saying or the context of what she was saying. So I'm going to play a fairly long clip, 5 minutes. Please be patient, listen to the whole clip, but especially listen to the end of the clip. Once the clip plays, I'm going to come back and I'm going to further break down the problems that I have with Marianne Williamson. First, I want to recommend go look at the other videos on my channel about her, and then view this video so you can get a total, complete picture of what I'm saying about this woman. But what I'm going to do is one more time, because of the things I just elaborated on, is the fact that a lot of ADOS seem to still have a white liberalism bug or virus or whatever you want to call it in them, a spirit in them that they need to get up out of them. And I'm going to do everything I can to get them out of them. And I'm going to say this too. I keep referring to the brother My Views. He said that, and like I said, I'm going to put his link in the description box, but he said that he's not out to destroy or attack her campaign. I am out to destroy this woman's campaign because she's very dangerous, because she's a very sophisticated white supremacist. She's not sophisticated to me because I can see through her, but apparently she's sophisticated to a lot of other people because she's fooling people who should be more sophisticated than your average black person. Because if you're sophisticated enough to call yourself ADOS, that right there makes you more sophisticated than your average black person. But yet, if you're calling yourself ADOS but still voting for Marianne Williamson, clearly this woman is more sophisticated as a white supremacist than you. And we need as many of us to get off this woman's train as possible and expose this woman, because she's dangerous and she can be used as a weapon against black people. And I know this from my studies of white supremacy. And that's the other reason why I pointed out my history and my knowledge and my education about white supremacy was not to brag or belittle anyone else, but to say that sometimes you should trust somebody else's expertise. If this is not something that you have really been studying recently, before the last couple of months or the last year, maybe sometimes you should defer to someone who has been studying these matters, has been studying white supremacists for a longer period of time. It's just like with a car. If you're not a mechanic, it's okay to defer to a mechanic. That's not an insult to your intelligence, right? If you're not a doctor, it's okay to defer to a doctor on matters of health. Same thing. And I'm not saying I'm a doctor of white supremacy or a mechanic of white supremacy, but I have more knowledge than your average black person, and I can see that by some of your comments. But anyway, I don't want to delay the clip from Marianne Williamson any longer. So here we go. Like I said, listen to the whole video, but especially listen to the end. And then after it's done, I'm going to comment and elaborate. I'm actually probably going to elaborate or comment in the middle of the video. So, but anyway, here we go.
The reason I support reparations is because reparations carry moral force. You know, Catholics go to confession, and Jews on the day of Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, is the Day of Atonement. That is a spiritual principle. Until you clean something up, it will continue to cause effects. So you have to deal with things on the level of cause. The United States has an original character defect, and that is racism. Now, I think the average American has not been properly educated about the real history of race in the United States, because we are decent people, we are a good people, and we have a sense of justice. However, too many of us aren't really clear about exactly what went down here. In 1619, the first slaves were brought to the United States, and the slaves were not freed until 1865. 2.5 centuries of slavery. Now, at the end of slavery, General Tecumseh Sherman said that all former slaves would receive 40 acres and a mule. So this is important. Reparations were promised at the time. What happened, unfortunately, in most of the cases, those 40 acres and a mule were not given. It was understood that people who obviously had not been part of the economy, they had been enslaved persons, were now freed. But as Martin Luther King would say 100 years later, freed to what? We know what they were freed from, but what were they freed to? As soon as the federal troops left in 1877, white legislatures throughout the South passed what were called the Black Code laws. Now, the Black Code laws were vicious. They were passed to ensure subpar economic, social, and political opportunities for black people. Now, with that, you've got another 100 years of what today we would call domestic terrorism. What do you call lynchings, if not domestic terror? What do you call the Ku Klux Klan, if not domestic terrorists? What do you call institutionalized white supremacy and segregation, if not domestic terror? So we're talking about 2.5 centuries of slavery, followed by another 100 years of institutionalized violence against black people in America. So the issue of reparations, first of all, let's look at this in some historical context. In 1988, Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, where we gave between $20,000 and $22,000 to every surviving prisoner from the Japanese internment camps. And since 1945, at the end of World War II, Germany has paid $89 billion in reparations to Jewish organizations. Now, that doesn't mean the Holocaust didn't happen, but it has gone far towards establishing reconciliation between Germany and the Jews of Germany and the rest of Europe. That is why I want reparations for slavery. There is an inherent acknowledgement of harm that was done, a debt that was owed, and a willingness to pay it. Yes.
All right, fam. So I'm stopping the video there real quick. What did she just say? She said it's a debt that's owed, right? Now, when you're owed a debt, she also said this on the debate stage. When you're owed a debt, you don't get to negotiate on that debt. Well, yes, okay, let me be full disclosure. Yes, you do, but understand that black Americans are not a credit bureau. We're not Equifax, okay? Or we're not whoever. We're not your electric bill or the TV you bought at Rent-A-Center. We're not going to accept a settlement on this debt, all right? Because the goal of the debt being paid is to close the racial wealth gap. And if we accept a quote-unquote settlement on the debt, meaning that we accept a lesser amount than what's owed, because a debt is an amount of money that's owed, but if we accept a lesser amount that's owed, it will not close the racial wealth gap, therefore making reparations pointless. What did we fight for? We might as well have accepted, if we're going to accept reparations that are not enough, we might as well have accepted a universal policy. It's completely pointless to accept a settlement, a quote-unquote settlement on reparations. But I'm only interjecting because I want to point that out. I want you guys to hear and catch that this woman specified that a debt was owed. Now, I know she uses this kind of terminology, and it helps her trick black people into being her little followers, but she just used the term a debt that is owed. So when you owe a debt, you don't get to dictate that debt. Even if we do come to a settlement in like a real life situation with a bank or a credit card company or whatever, or like I said, Rent-A-Center or whoever, right? Even when you do come to a settlement on those kind of debts, you as the debtor or the dettee, whatever you want to call it, the person who owes the debt, you don't get to say what the settlement is. You don't get to say, oh, I owe you $1,000, well, I'm going to pay 10 and that's a settlement, and you got to take it, and you got to take this off my credit report. You got to show I paid off this debt. No. They get to say, okay, if you give me $500, I'll say I'll clear your whole $1,000 debt. I'll take $500 on that $1,000 debt. They get to say that. The collections agency, which is usually who you do a settlement with, they get to dictate the settlement. I don't. I don't get to tell them I'm going to pay $5 on a $500 debt, and they're going to take that as a settlement. They can say that. If they say they're going to take $5 on a $500 debt, that's their choice. But I don't get to say that. And that's why I'm pointing it out, because I want you guys to pay attention to when Marianne Williamson gives her figure. And I'm going to go elaborate on it further in just a moment. But I just wanted to make sure I exposed and pointed out that this woman said that a debt is owed. Right? So a debt, when you acknowledge that you owe someone else a debt, you don't get to determine how much you pay them. They get to determine. If they're going to take a settlement, they get to determine how much they're going to settle for. But as I'm saying, we shouldn't settle for anything, because we're not a credit card company. This is our lives that we're talking about. This is not some business that we're running. Even though we need to handle it like business, this is not a business that we're running. This is our whole lives that we're talking about, and our whole existence that we're talking about. But anyway, I digress. Let me let her finish the video.
Yes, things have gotten better in many, many ways. And the whole issue of reparations is simply that we have not finished. We have not yet completed the job of full reconciliation. And I'm not saying reparations are going to fix everything, because we also know how much inner work has to be done, issues of privilege, etc. But it will go a far way. My plan is to appoint a reparations council. And this reparations council would be made up of black leaders representing American descendants of slaves. And there are many, such as Professor Sandy Darity at Duke University, people who have been doing scholarly work for years on this subject. My proposal is that there be between $200 and $500 billion that would be paid by the U.S. government over a period of 20 years, dispersed to this council, for them to disperse according to their decisions, as long as the stipulation is that this money is to be spent on projects of educational and economic renewal. And I have been in this conference.
Let me stop right there, because I don't want nothing she says to slip by, because obviously this woman is a sophisticated enough white supremacist to fool black people, a lot of black people who are even calling themselves ADOS. Now, in my previous videos, go check out my second video about Marianne Williamson. I pointed out how she did an interview with Dr. Darity. And Dr. Darity said to her, he did not insist on only or strictly cash payments, but he said that individual direct payments need to be a part of any reparations plan. He said that directly to Marianne Williamson. And Marianne Williamson said directly back to him. I don't see white Americans going along with that, which basically means I'm not agreeing with it, because I don't think other white supremacists will agree with it. Other white supremacists don't want black people getting money, which is why we need to be pushing cut the check, because exactly what the white supremacists don't want us getting in the form of reparations is exactly what we should be getting in the form of reparations. That's the other thing that we don't understand enough about white supremacy, is that white supremacists run tricks, meaning that they'll approve something, but only their way. Like, you can only get it their way, like reparations. Oh, we'll give you reparations, but only in the form that we say. Oh, we'll give you affirmative action, or we'll give you these benefits, but only in the form that we say that it can be administered in. Not the form that you say, not the form that you want. We're going to give affirmative action, but it's going to be to minorities, not black people. Not what you want. That's the kind of things that they do. We're going to give welfare, but it's going to be to poor people, not necessarily just black people, which is why white people are the highest recipients of welfare in the nation. Even though obviously we shouldn't be dependent on or needing welfare, we shouldn't be in that kind of position. I'm not saying that, but I'm just giving examples of different programs that are allegedly supposed to be for black people, but never benefit us, never lift us up out of our condition. That's because we let the white supremacists determine how they are administered and who they benefit. And the reason why I'm pointing it out is because obviously, as you guys just heard also, this woman just name dropped Dr. Darity. Right? Because when she name drops him, obviously that's fooling a lot of ADOS and saying, oh, she's good. She's approved. She's with Dr. Darity. She's listening to Dr. Darity. No, she's not. Because when Dr. Darity told her the amount, she came back and said, no, I don't think white people will agree with that. What does that have to do with anything? And I already pointed out in my other video, studies show that white people wouldn't agree with reparations, period. Now they're backing off on that. Studies show that white people strongly disagree with integration. Now they're all for integration. Nobody cares what white people think. This is about justice. And when you come back with that kind of response, that's no different than what Bernie Sanders said about how it's unfeasible and how it's too divisive. And how are some of the same people who have enough intelligence to see that that's enough to cancel Bernie Sanders, all that is too divisive and it's unfeasible that he was saying about reparations back in 2016 up till very, very recently when he said he was a support of study? How are you intelligent enough to call him out? But when Marianne Williamson does the same thing, tells you what's unfeasible, just like Bernie Sanders, you listen to her. Is it because she's coming with a dollar amount, even though it's not enough? Because if that's the case, you'll accept $5 as long as they say they support reparations. As long as they say they're for reparations and not just HR 40, you'll support them. Even if they say $5 per ADOS. That's what a lot of y'all are saying with this woman. But anyway, this is like a minute and a half left in the video. I'm going to let it finish playing, but again, I had to interject because I didn't want that to go over people's heads. So I had to interject in the video. This woman just said to you guys that she's going to have these programs administered, but only for economic and educational renewal, not cash payments. So she's not supporting cut the check. She's just like the rest of the Democrats. She wants to put it in a program which is going to end up as a trick bag that is not going to benefit us. Just like affirmative action has not. That's why we still have the wealth gap that we have and all the other disparate stats for black people. The high unemployment rates that never got fixed. The health outcomes. All of that stuff. Our median wealth still projected to be zero by the mid 21st century here. More trick bag programs with an amount that's not enough. That's why she said, with the only stipulation, she's going to give the money to this council, to Dr. Darity, but the stipulation is going to be that it can only be used for economic and educational renewal. Which means more trick bags. But anyway, let me finish the video.
Conversation long enough to know that whatever number you say, there are going to be some who say it's too much, and there are going to be some who say it's not enough. Because if you actually do the math from 40 acres and a mule in 1865, and you equate that to today, that would be trillions of dollars. That's not politically feasible, but I think $200 to $500 billion is. We have younger generations who understand the very concept of historical trauma, so that we understand that these are psychological and emotional.
And there you have it, fam. So you see where she threw out her little shot to ADOS. First she said, there are going to be some who say it's too much. Nobody cares about the white supremacists who are going to say $200 billion is too much. They would say $5 is too much. That's number one. Only you, Marianne Williamson, cares about the pandering to the white supremacists. We don't. I don't. So that's number one. Someone's going to say it's not enough. Then she says, then this is the key part. Some gonna say it's too much. Some gonna say it's too much. That's what she said. Then she said some's gonna say it's not enough. But then what did she follow that up with? Of the people who's gonna say it's not enough? Because notice how when she said the people who's gonna say it's too much, she didn't back that up with any data to show that they would be justified as saying 2 to 500 billion is too much. What she did was, when she said the people who said it's not enough, she immediately acknowledged, because she knows that people like me, who she's referring to, who say that it's not enough, because they're the low end of reparations start at $1 trillion. And I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description box showing that too. Start at $1 trillion, can range up to $20 trillion. So 2 to 500 billion is an offensively low amount, and it is not going to do anything to lower the racial wealth gap. Offering 1.5 to 2 trillion is bottom barrel. It's the bottom barrel of what we should accept. 20 trillion is a more acceptable figure. But the very, very lowest number we could walk away from the table with is about 1.5 to $2 trillion. And this woman is talking about less than half a trillion, or at most half 1 trillion, 500 billion. But what she said, what did she say after the people who say it's not enough? She immediately referenced the study she knew we would have, because she know we have information. The people who say it's too much, she knows that they're just white supremacists. So she didn't refer to any studies saying that they would be justified in saying 2 to 500 billion was too much. She only referred to the studies for the people who are going to say it's not enough. Because there are studies showing it is in the trillions. So this is not just something I'm saying. This is something that Marianne Williamson just acknowledged herself. You just heard it on tape. She just acknowledged that it's in the trillions. She didn't specify how many trillions, but she acknowledged that the debt should be in the trillions, yet she's still coming with too low an amount. As I've already detailed and provided receipts for in my other videos, she's already met with Antonio Moore, who told, and Yvette Carnell, who have told her on YouTube, on tape, that her figures were too low, and told her a more appropriate amount, and she still did not come with an appropriate amount. I have provided YouTube videos where she is on tape with Sandy Darity, being told an appropriate amount, and she still insists and continues to come with too low an amount. I did that video 3 months ago, showing how when she was talking to Sandy Darity. This clip I just played, it was released 5 days ago. So over 3 months after she was told by Dr. Darity a correct amount, she still came with too low an amount. This is I know you guys can probably hear the passion in my voice, but to me it's upsetting because at least in my view, and I don't know if anybody that's listening to this video can relate to this, but at least in my view, this is not something that's hard to see. Like, I almost feel like I should not have to be making this video. Like, how can people not see that this woman is, that people who are intelligent enough to call themselves ADOS cannot see that this woman is being disrespectful to the ADOS movement? And to be 100% honest, I'm not even seeing Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell show enough intelligence to call this woman out. Like, I saw Antonio Moore say that it's not enough, she's going to have to adjust her numbers. But he seems to not be paying. Even he seems to not be paying attention to the fact that this woman has already been told the amount by several people, including him, including Antonio Moore, including Sandy Darity, and she still continues to come with an offensively low amount. Let me tell you the problem with this woman, because a lot of people say that we have to support her still because she's keeping the conversation going, even if her number's too low. What she's gonna do, what you guys supporting her and donating to her, which I've seen a lot of you say you've done, hundreds of dollars donated to this woman. What you're going to do is, even if this woman has no chance of winning, which is what a lot of people say, oh, she has no chance of winning anyway, so we're not worried about her too low amount. We should just support her because she's talking about reparations. Let me tell you what's going to happen. What this woman is doing is I think that she's a test dummy. She's a test run for a future candidate. I think the white supremacists, because they're all white supremacists, even though they're fake panicking about Trump, I don't think they really care about Trump that much. And I think he's going to win again this election. I think they're okay with Trump winning a second term, even though a lot of the white leftists are acting like it's going to be the end of the world if he wins re-election. I think that's more for black people to get us back on board with voting and being a Democrat. But I think this woman is a test dummy. I don't think she's going to win or have any chance of winning, no matter how much ADOS backs her. But what I think is going to happen is she's going to be used as a test dummy so that they can come out with another candidate after Trump that they're actually going to put in office, a Democrat, that they're actually going to put in office, that they're actually going to let win. And this woman is going to use a lot of Marianne Williamson's talking points. She's going to start saying ADOS a lot, like Marianne Williamson said. She's going to give this big, elaborate history lesson like Marianne Williamson does. And she's going to come with a figure like Marianne Williamson did. And she's going to specify that it's only going to be in programs and no cash payments like Marianne Williamson did. And she might adjust her number a little bit, like Marianne Williamson said, 2 to 500 billion. This woman might say 4 to 800 billion, something like that. It's still not going to be enough. But basically, she's going to be Marianne Williamson 2.0. Marianne Williamson is going to be used as a test dummy. Or they might rerun Marianne Williamson again. It might be her again. It's either going to be a Marianne Williamson, someone who's just like her, or a Marianne Williamson herself coming back around when Trump's coming out of office, because he has to at that point after his second term. And they're going to say, hey, look, even ADOS, who many saw as the authority on reparation, as the initial movement or the primary movement or the major force or the biggest force behind reparations, they supported this woman or this man or whoever it is in 2024 when Trump's out of office. And this is just me theorizing what their plan is. So that when they put this candidate in office, they can say, look, black people supported this. The so-called intelligent ADOS supported this, and the ones who are less intelligent, they damn sure supported it if the ones who are supposedly more intelligent supported it. This is what black people wanted. This is what the ADOS movement wanted. This is what Dr. Darity wanted. The same names they're dropping now, they'll drop them then. This is what they wanted so that they can give us a reparations amount that's too low, that will not fix the racial wealth gap. And then we probably won't even realize it at first because obviously enough of us don't have the intelligence to see that yet. We probably won't even realize it's enough at first. But when the next generation realizes it in 40, 50, 60 years, after, 100 years after the generation that gets reparations gets it, guess what the white supremacists are going to say? We already gave you guys reparations. And you guys at the time agreed with it. Black people at the time agreed with it. So if we give you reparations again, that shows it'll never be enough. And then that's it. And reparations are completely dead. Reparations from America are dead for eternity. This is what we have. We have one shot. Black people, we have one shot at getting reparations. If we screw it up, if we take an amount that's not enough, if we allow and support and put money and votes behind people who are going to give an amount that's not enough, it will backfire on us, and we will set up a future generation of black people to have to go back and fight for reparations again, reparations that they will never get because the idiots before them took an amount that was not enough, that did not fix the racial wealth gap. And we will be extinct, as the studies that Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell have put forward and Sandy Darity have put forward, showing not only that we're going to be broke, but we're going to be extinct. We're literally going to go out of existence in America. We're going to become like dinosaurs. They'll have high top Nikes in a museum in 100 years because black people will be extinct. I don't want that. I'm trying to avoid that. So some people may think I'm overreacting to this woman or whatever it may be, but I have to go in on this woman because she is dangerous and she is disrespectful. I have broken down in this video and other videos how she has been told on multiple occasions the right amount, and she continues to say, no, I'm going to tell you how much I'm going to give you, even though she says out one side of her mouth that she acknowledges that it was a debt. She says, yeah, it's a debt, but I'm going to tell you how much I owe you. I wish I could do that with any debt I had. No, I'm going to tell you how much I owe you. You're not going to get to tell me how much you owe me. And at no point do you get to do that unless you're filing bankruptcy. And Marianne Williamson has not claimed that she's going to file bankruptcy on America in order to not have to pay the full amount of reparations. All she said is, look, no, and she doesn't have to. Because she's the one who can, if she is president, let's say hypothetically, even though she basically has no chance, let's say hypothetically she does become president, she knows she has actually Congress does, but she knows she's going to work in concert with the white supremacist Congress to control the purse strings, and so she doesn't have to decide how much she is or isn't going to pay. She's just going to dictate to us how much she's going to pay. She's basically saying, no, I don't care that you guys are old trillions. Yes, I know that you're old trillions, and I don't give a damn. I'm giving you 200 to 500 billion, which is not enough. And it's offensive that she would do that. And honestly, it's more offensive that so many black people, especially ADOS, think that this woman is out here for our benefit or in our interest just because she says a few nice things, because she's more sophisticated than Bernie Sanders or Kamala Harris, who won't even acknowledge the ADOS movement. That's what it always takes with us, with black people. That's why we fall for Democrats over Republicans, because they're slightly more willing to acknowledge racism than a Republican, even though they're both racist. And it's the same thing with Marianne Williamson versus the rest of the Democrats. She's slightly more willing to acknowledge the problem than the rest of the Democrats, but still not enough. So she should be seen as no different, just like we should see Democrats as no different than Republicans. So even though some of us are intelligent enough to see Democrats as no different than Republicans, we still can't see Marianne Williamson as no different than the rest of the Democrats. But anyway, this video has been going on for a minute. Another long video, but I had to go in on this woman. She's dangerous, and she's a white supremacist. And I'm not supporting Marianne Williamson unless she comes with a much greater figure and she supports cash payments. Doesn't have to be 100% full cash payments, but it at least needs to include cash payments. Until she comes with both of those stances, I cannot and will not support this woman, and I will continue to go in on her everywhere I see foolish black people supporting her, because that's the whole reason why I got on board with ADOS, was to help close the racial wealth gap, get us justice, get us reparations, get us restorative, get us back to being actual Americans in the country that we built. Instead of accepting trick bag after trick bag, scam after scam, from civil rights to affirmative action to welfare, now we're going to let the white supremacists turn reparations into another scam by running behind people like Marianne Williamson. But anyway, I digress. Very long video. Hopefully most of y'all have the stamina to listen to it in full. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Peace.